do a little bit of priming with the instant colors, the 3 different primers that we got. We're going to prime a couple of them with a brush for now, and then after we get done with a brush, we'll let those dry and we'll go and paint some up with the airbrush in my airbrush room. So I'm going to use this. I normally use a wet palette for most of my paints. I don't believe that these instant colors or the antithesis or the citadels actually should be using a wet palette. To me, that would kind of dilute them too much, especially how I overly wet my wet palette, it seems like sometimes, but that's all right. We're going to go for that, and I'm going to just use this little palette here, and then I can just clean these up really easy. They're cheap, they're good for that sort of thing. So I also decided to go with a kind of different ones that I was, like I said, I was going to go for the Rune Wars miniature game, but we're going to go to something almost exactly like it, but different. What we're going to go with is some critters from Descent, 2nd edition. If I can get them out. Oop, I lost this guy. What is this guy? This guy is some kind of ghoul. You know what? Why not? Let's keep him there too. Maybe a dragon. And I've got, luckily a lot of these things come with a couple of different same models, so I can try it out when my antithesis comes, and we can go from there. And I wasn't really impressed with these models, so that's kind of why we're going to go with these also. I should probably be filling some of these big old gaps and stuff like that on some of these. Some of these are kind of pretty ridiculous. Fantasy Flight game has really stepped up their game in recent years, so it isn't quite as bad as it used to be. But I'm not sure what scale these are at, but they look to me to be maybe a 25 or somewhere right around there. They're pretty small. I mean, if you look at what most people, everybody's doing now is like a 35 or a 32 or something, it seems like. I mean, we can put this little hero here, and we can put Gandalf from Journeys of Middle-earth right next to him, and we can see that that is considerably bigger. So there's that. You might be asking, well, why aren't you doing the Gandalf like you said? Well, because I'm going to airbrush him. I didn't airbrush this Gandalf with the antithesis with the primers that Warcolor makes for their antithesis, because I didn't have them at the time. I just used Vallejo gray and a white ink, kind of a zenithal on that also. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use their primers through the airbrush here in a little while. That's the one I'm going to airbrush, along with maybe if I get that other guy soaped up and dried off. Probably not today, but sometime I'm going to get Brahm also painted with that. So let's go. I think there's quite a few spiders here, so I'm going to grab a couple more spiders out of here, and we're going to do, let's just go easy with this. Yeah, I want to do a whole bunch of different colors and stuff like that, but this is something that I'm probably going to play some more of eventually. So I do want to not have them looking terrible. So I don't want to be just putting random colors all over them. So let's go with that, and then I can use one of each color primer there and prime up this little guy here too. let's go with that first. See how that turns out. We're going to start out here with this white Holy primer. I'm going to give it a real good shake here because you should be giving everything a real good shake. I should probably pre-shake these before I start recording a video and have you guys watch me shake a, some paint up. Not something you enjoy watching. Not something I would enjoy watching, that's for sure. So we're going to say that's probably good enough. We're going to go with that, nice and thin, like you would expect some primer to be. I'm also going to go ahead and shake up my gray. We're going to get this gray taken care of. Might be thinking, why are you wearing a coat, Zane? Because it's cold outside, and my whole setup here is in my man cave, which is the basement, where I think all man caves are, right? They're all in the basement, and it's cold. It's 10 degrees for a high today. It's really cold outside. My house is plenty insulated and everything else, but I get cold easily, so we're going ahead and we're outside a little bit. I mean, so I like to be warm, and I have a jacket on. I would normally, when I'm not doing a video, I've got a little heater that sits underneath my desk and warms my feet. I've got socks on. I don't like shoes in the house. It's pet peeve. But maybe I should buy some slippers. I don't know. Anyway, it is awfully cold for that. We can product placement here for Scale75, I guess, since I'm using their stuff there. Feet are cold. Normally have that little heater on as I paint, and that's just how I do it. So there was the ice charm and the holy charm. Now we're doing the bone charm. I would assume that the bone charm you would want mostly on maybe bone, because that's the kind of effect you're going for. So we'll go with that. When I do my airbrush test, I am only going to be using the gray ice charm and the holy charm. I don't see any point in using the yellow right now. I got my cheap paintbrushes. Normally what I use. I haven't, like I said, in my previous video, I did get some broken toed, and I do plan on using them. But for now, I'm going to use these up. I might actually go ahead and clean these up just a little bit, since I do got the new handy dandy thing here, and I'm not very good at this. I detest doing it, especially when I've got like fingers and when they're in horribly bad places to do it, because it just drives me nuts. Actually, this one's not too bad. There's a couple right here, I think. This one just kind of, this thing works pretty nice, really. What I like about it is I can put quite a bit of force on it and not cut myself. I got myself pretty good the other day with that X-Acto knife. Maybe I'm just dumb, and coming towards me is not the way to do it, obviously, but sometimes stuff happens. So I'm going to say that one's probably good enough. It's just a little bit. We're not going to go into it a whole bunch. I am going to have a whole video on that because I normally don't put models together. I do more board games than I do war games or anything. I don't even mess with Warhammer, most of those. Why? Because I just don't care about Warhammer or anything on it. I'm like, yeah, okay, those look cool, but whatever, they're really expensive. I don't know if the game's any fun or anything like that. It probably is, but it just seems kind of cliche-y, I guess. That's not a word, is it? No, it's all right. You guys can, you know, reprimand me in the comments about that. But yeah, so we're gonna go with that. So spider's somewhat clean. Here you got to put on, when you're doing a brush, normally with any kind of primer that I've noticed is that you have to do it a couple of coats. Alright, a little bit on this guy here. We'll get him taken care of. I promise that off video for now I will get Gandalf, who I will prime right after this with you know, get him cleaned up off camera, so you guys don't have to watch me do this, because you know this isn't very fun and I can't get very close to it. You can't really see what I'm doing, and that's what I want to get a little bit better, get the video a little bit closer. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that later on down the road when I do the video about taking mold lines off and everything else, because like I said, I just got started on doing some that build, and I really like the models on the Dwagam over here and the Conquest, but they got a little flack and they got some mold lines, and the flack isn't so bad, but those mold lines, I'm one of those people, you know, I've seen a bunch of videos. They'll sit there and they'll tell you, well, all you got to do is just run your blade along that, and then it'll be done and be great. But yeah, I'm not. I get to the point and I'm like, well, what about this one? It's right at his fingers. What do I do here? You know, and I have never seen a video that explains that. I don't know exactly what do you do at that point. And I have came up with my own solution on it. Whether or not it's right or whether or not it looks any good is a whole nother story. We're going to find out here down the road. I think that you know, obviously could have done a little bit of better, you know, mold line on this one's. You can't see that. Obviously, I'm pointing way up too high. But here, there's a mold line going all the way up. I totally missed it. I seem to be able to see them a lot better when I get the primer on, and then it drives me bonkers. But you know, like I said, I've got to deal with it. It's as long as I'm happy with it, and as long as the paint job's pretty good, it ain't gonna bother me that bad. See, and yep. So that's, you know, Gandalf's got some of that flat, some of that mold line right on his fingers. That's where they always have them, right on the fingers, and then you're like, well, that doesn't look right. There's no line that goes down a finger. Well, you're right, there isn't. But I swear to God, that's where the mold lines are every time. Anyway, enough of me jabbering. My wife tells me that I jabber a lot and jump around from, you know, one thing to the next. So we're doing that. One thing I will let you guys know right now, I'm not a brush licker, okay? I'm not going to do that. First off, when I was a kid, the kid that was eating paint or licking the paintbrush, that's a kid you making fun of. And you know, he wasn't the brightest peanut in the turd, so we're going to go with that. And that's why I'm not going to do it. And no offense, everybody else can do whatever they want, and that's fine. Some of those guys that lick their paint, maybe that's what I'm not doing right, because they're doing a way better job than me. But I'm not going to do it. Woo! Yeah, wow. So right away, I'm noticing that I'm going to have to goop this stuff on because it's really, really thin. And like with most, I have never, ever had any luck whatsoever priming any miniature with any kind of primer with a paintbrush. But they say it can be done, and maybe if I went ahead and I took a little bit of sandpaper and sandpapered all this on here, then it would probably stick really good. And I mean, it is sticking, and that's probably why you got to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 15 coats later. But I'm not going to spend that much time on it. And like I said, I don't get a lot of time. I have extra time today because I'm off. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. Not only that, but you can never, ever get it in all the spots that I would like to get my primer in, up underneath things. Like, by God, trying to get that up underneath those dirty legs there, that's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, okay. I'm just really blobbing her on there. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about it. Like I said, I'm going to come back and do another coat here in a little while. And a lot of times when you got this kind of really, really thin stuff, it will thin. That is my boss calling me, so I will pause this. Hello?